I think my foundation is unique.
Talk about how HBCU prepared you for the world.
My time at Southern University was longer than it needed to be.
I went to PWI. I went to LSU for undergrad. I can remember sitting in classrooms where you could throw a rock and you didn't hit anybody else that looked like me, right?
Yeah, man. At least from that side of my family, that's all I knew, man, was engineering and the technical profession.
I may have gotten that exposure at a PWI early.
When I chose to focus, I was able to focus.
There's an underrepresentation of black engineers, period.
Yeah, man.
Black males, even the more. Then a black male engineer that then owns his own engineering firm.
Learn theory that I needed to learn.
I think that's a critical age where you really need that incubation as a young black man.
There are aspects of my community that benefit me to this day. There was a span there between my tenure at Grumman and my decision to found. There was about a 6.5-year span.
Thunder Thoughts is back, and we're talking to my friend Darius Bolton. You don't want to miss this episode as we talk about how engineering can be a bridge to access and opportunity. Darius' story is that of many young black men who were able to seize an opportunity and have now gone from just working to entrepreneurship to creating legacy. You don't want to miss this conversation. Let's dive in. Darius, thank you for joining Thunder Thoughts.
Appreciate you having me, man.
So Darius, I think the foundation is always important, right? We talk about access, we talk about opportunities for young black men, but you really can go to the foundation often and understand how someone was able to navigate or what those challenges were. Take us to the beginning of Darius Bolton.
Yeah, man. So I think my foundation is unique. You know what I mean? Not everybody, gets to be raised by parents who are involved in the technical space. My dad, began in mechanical engineering and eventually took a position with AMCO on an offshore rig, and all of his younger brothers pursued engineering degrees and careers in the oil and gas space. And so, at least from that side of my family, that's all I knew, man, was engineering and technical, the technical profession.
Yeah. So having that. How did that shape your confidence, having that exposure at such a young age to say, I know pretty much from high what I'm going to be?
Yeah.
How did that shape your confidence?
Yeah, I mean, we call it confidence now, but frankly, it was just reality back then. I can remember a shirt in the 5th grade that we had to design, and using some kind of glue with the colors and glitter and stuff on it. And I remember my shirt to this day, it said Engine of Spirit on it, whatever that means, right? But it was an engine with the manifold and all of that stuff. And so I can remember as early as, 4th or 5th grade that was the play, you know what I'm saying? And so, if nothing else, walking out of elementary school knowing that, this is inevitable, that looking back on it now, that's confidence. And if you can instill something that early on, that path, becomes inevitable just about.
Well, I think that's important because as we talk about the access deficit, right, and really needing that for young black men.
Yeah, man.
Here you are from Scotlandville, USA.
Yeah.
From the field.
Yeah.
And you think about all of the negative things we hear about North Baton Rouge, but how did that really set you apart in growing up in the field, but you had this awesome example in front of you that really pointed you toward what was going to be your access point to success at a young age? Did you see that really differentiate you from other young men that may not have had that when you grew up?
Yeah, without question, man. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that, it takes those unique circumstances like that to really, to be the difference between whether some of us make it and some of us don't, but hey, there are aspects of my community that benefit me to this day. I grew up, I started at Progress Elementary and then Park Ridge and Baker and eventually Greenbrier Elementary and then came back to Scotlandville, went to Scotlandville Middle and eventually Scotlandville Magnet High. But, I mentioned my dad's brothers, and that's not to take any away from my aunts because they were part of the foundation as well. But on my mom's side, they really taught us how to be stand up. You know what I'm saying? On my dad's side, they were very technical and precise and accurate and all the engineering things. But on my mom's side, was what it was, man. I mean, and to this day, I carry a certain assurance, quiet assurance about myself. Not to talk tough, but I don't get tried very often.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful for my community really instilling that sense of confidence in me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man.
Absolutely. So let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk about the educational preparation.
Yeah.
So you matriculated at the greatest HBCU in the country.
Yeah.
The Southern University.
Yeah.
Talk about how HBCU prepared you for the world.
Yeah, man. So Southern University, man, I started my time at Southern University was longer than it needed to be. You know what I'm saying? It was longer than it needed to be, but it was as long as it needed to be, right? I mean, if that makes sense. But yeah, man, it was, looking back, going to an HBCU allowed me to learn theory that I needed to learn, right? Because that much doesn't change, regardless of what institution you go to. In particular, our accredited institutions, the material is the material, but I was able to learn and matriculate without having to worry about whether or not I belonged. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just a burden that I never had to carry. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to focus. When I chose to focus, I was able to focus, on the material at hand and not have to worry about, the social pressures or swimming upstream in places where I might not have felt comfortable. Yeah. And of course, I mean, you find your tribe, on the yard. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Pledged Alpha Phi Alpha and, did all the things that come with, starting your career in that type of environment.
Yes. You hit on that about the sense of belonging. Mm-hmm. There's really this argument around the school of thought of really that social piece, right? So mm-hmm. I went to PWI, I went to LSU for undergrad, and I can remember sitting in classrooms where, you could throw a rock and you didn't hit anybody else that looked like me, right? Yeah. But then on the flip side, you come out of a Southern University and you enter into a corporate environment where a lot of folks don't look like you. And so there's this whole argument of, I may have gotten that exposure at a PWI early. Mm-hmm. Do you think it matters, at the age? Do you think that's a critical age where you really need that incubation as a young black man to say, to instill at that age that belonging and then be ready for the world? Or do you think it just depends on the student?
I think it depends on the student.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, each person walks their own journey, mm-hmm. and some of us are ready. When we step foot on campus, and some of us aren't ready. Yeah. And for those of us who may not be ready, certainly, being in an environment where you may be nurtured or you can feel a sense of belonging is going to be an asset to you versus one where you may feel a little bit more outcast, but is it a prerequisite? No, I don't think it's a prerequisite. It's just a nice to have if you happen to need that, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So Southern, mm-hmm. You enjoy the yard a little bit too much.
I did my thing.
But get your paper, as they say.
Yeah.
And what happens after that? You go into corporate America. Talk to us about the transition. Yeah. Really into wanting to be an engineer. Now you're an engineer.
That's right.
You got to figure it out.
That's right, man. So I graduated in December 2002, and I took a position as a structural engineer with Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman is one of the major defense contractors, and they were operating a shipyard down in New Orleans or in Avondale, where they were contracted to build several large-scale programs. And so I was brought on board as a structural engineer, and I always did pretty well in structures. And my role there, I spent 3 years at Northrop Grumman, worked my way up to secret security clearance, and while I was there, my primary responsibility was finite element design and analysis. And so naval architects would design the hull of the ship and the foundation of equipment on the ship. I would analyze those primary ship structures, the hull, as well as the foundations that those equipments would sit on, and I would use finite element analysis to perform those evaluations. And so The goal was to make sure that the ship structure could withstand, underwater explosions. And so, I had access to top secret security codes and acceleration codes, and and the work I did was very, very important. And so I spent 3 years in that position.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you do 3 years, Darius.
Yeah.
You jump from the yard out to the shipyard.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Do 3 years.
Yeah.
When did you know that you wanted to go from being employed to ownership to entrepreneurship, right? Because you get out of school, you hear, okay,
Yeah.
you got a good job. You go make it
Right.
You got
Right.
benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did something click in you and say there's more to this?
Yeah, man. So there was a span there between, my tenure at Grumman and my decision to found, Bonton Associates. There was about a 6.5 year span. Right. And so, we talk about all of the help that comes your way that has nothing to do with you. You know what I'm saying? It's God's grace. It's the tailwinds. It's whatever you want to call it. But I have a very, very close friend of mine, David Guillory, who chose the path of public works. We both graduated Southern University together, and so while I was at Northrop Grumman, David was working for the city of Baton Rouge under Mayor Holden.
Yeah.
And his ascension was as rapid as mine was, but albeit a different path. And he worked his way into assistant director of DPW, which is insane when you think about it, right? To be a young black engineer leading what probably was the largest department in city government.
Absolutely.
And so this little small storm named Katrina hit in 2005, and the opportunity to come to Baton Rouge presented itself. There was a firm that had predominantly done business in the Metairie area that was looking to relocate and establish a presence in Baton Rouge, and they had engaged David, and so David engaged me. He was like, "Look, man, you want to get into consulting?" And I was like, maybe, and Misa and I were getting ready to get married that year in 2006. In 2006. I'm sorry, it was 20 years ago. And so I joined Buchard Horn as a project manager, working for a gentleman who has since passed on, rest in peace, Jim Joffrion. But Jim and I started Buchard Horn's office here in Baton Rouge. And Jim was an older gentleman when I first met him. He was probably in his mid-70s, or maybe even a little bit older. And so I think just by virtue of that, he elevated my exposure in the work that we did, just because,
some stuff he wasn't.
He was like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And so very early on in consulting, I was exposed to, how projects are scoped, how budgets are derived, how communications at all levels of our client are handled, how politics are kind of weaved into those decisions. And so, again, nothing to do with me, but I just find myself in these situations that benefited me, right? And so I spent 6 years with Buchard Horn, and eventually was offered a position with Providence Engineers to start their transportation division. They had largely been in the air quality and the environmental space, and so I came on board to run several of their larger transportation projects, and I did that for about 7 months. And then I realized that I think I can build something that may outlive me. And so that's when the decision to start the firm happened. And so that was in January 2012.
Yeah. Talk about the risk. What were the risks involved that you perceived at that time?
Yeah, man.
And then what are the real risks that you experienced?
How much time you got? Yeah, man. When you jump out there on your own, man, there's no safety. You are the safety.
Yeah.
You are the free safety. If it gets by you, it's catastrophic at that point. You know what I'm saying? So leaving the protection of an established firm, really places all of the production risk on you. Obviously, the financial risk become yours. Rent and payroll and those types of expenses and liabilities, accrue on a frequency that might not align with how you're paid by your clients. And so there's the financial risks that come with it. And, when you walk in there with and you're selling, professional services, you're selling, brain matter, that's not a real asset. That's not a tangible asset. And so you're trying to convince a bank to, float you some capital so that you can get things going. You're asked to guarantee things on the personal side, for risks that you're taking on the commercial side. And so, it was real, getting cranked up. Yeah.
Yes. Was there a moment that you almost walked away?
Never. I'm so fulfilled in this path that I've chosen every day. Now there are moments when I have to come to the realization that I may not be able to pursue growth as actively as I would want to. But walking away from it all has never entered the equation. You know what I mean? So
when you really look at, I've spent enough time around, that you're data driven.
Yeah, man.
You look at the statistics. It keeps getting smaller and smaller in your journey, right? One, we know that there's an underrepresentation of Black engineers, period.
Yeah.
Black males, even the more.
Yep.
Then a Black male engineer that then owns his own engineering firm.
That's right.
It keeps dwindling.
It's a funnel, right?
Yeah. It keeps dwindling down.
Yeah, man.
Talk about that a little bit in just what you carry every day outside of just a P&L.
Yeah.
What do you really carry every day in terms of what you represent for your community, your family, with knowing what you know about that kind of data?
Yeah, man. You packed a lot into that question, man. When I look at, you say, the pipeline of individual engineers, right, and engineers of color, you're right. Those numbers aren't where I would like to see them, but I think you got to look at where the breakdown is happening. If you look at students who declare engineering majors, white students compared to Hispanic students compared to Black students, it's about the same. It's about 1 in 5. I think the actual numbers are maybe 18% for Black students, maybe 19% for Hispanic, and maybe 20% for white students. So the interest is there. There's no gap in interest. Where the gap presents itself is in the amount of students who finish. And, where you have closer to 60% of white students who finish with an accredited 4-year degree, whereas only about 33 to 34% of our Black students finish. And so you can attribute that to all kinds of things, right?
I was going to ask you, what do you think those barriers are?
Yeah, I mean, financial responsibilities during school, but it could be one. It could be the pressures of some of the DEI policies that have changed, recently. Myriad things that could be attributing to, why we necessarily don't finish at the same rate as our counterparts. But the one other thing that's interesting is you look at African American engineering programs as a percentage of overall engineering programs. HBCU programs make up about 5%.
Wow.
Of the total 200-300 programs that are out there. I think there's 27 HBCU engineering programs. However, HBCUs represent roughly 17-18% of Black graduates. So,
wow,
that tells you the system that's able to carry these kids through
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But there's still some of us that have fallen away, and perhaps that's just the rigor of the programs,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But you know, but I found that interesting. You know, preparing for our talk, that that there is no gap in interest.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like at the same rate, students are interested in being an engineer when you compare them. But once now getting into more on the commercial side of things and having a place, you know, so we have black engineers and you know, are there opportunities available for them to find fulfilling careers that are rewarding and provide upward mobility and all of those things? You ask, you know, what duty do I carry?
Yeah.
You know, and my answer to that, it's real. You know, in fact, I've gone back and forth internally with our teams on, you know, just how we hire.
Yeah.
And I like to think of it like chicken and the egg, right? You may look at a resume, for example, and it shows it's as far as we know, it's a reflection of one's experiences to date.
Sure.
But what I reject is it a representation of one's capabilities, right? Because those things aren't the same thing. Your
That's the hardest
capabilities,
to measure.
your capabilities versus your experience, those are not the same thing. And experience is not the only proxy for capability.
Right.
You know, and so oftentimes it's a gut feel. And am I willing to go with that gut feel more so than some of our counterparts are?
Right.
Maybe I am. You know what I'm saying? Is that a duty of mine? I mean, I don't know if that's a duty of mine, but that's just how I operate, you know, because I feel like our experiences are nothing more than a representation of the opportunities that we have been given, and not necessarily a representation of our capabilities.
Sure. And I guess internally, the internal struggle of that,
Mm-hmm.
how do you wrestle with that? Because at the end of the day, certainly, you know, you want to see other engineers that look like you be able
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you know, your business is not black and white, it's green. You
Yep.
know, you got bills to pay.
Yeah. For
You got a family at home.
Yeah.
You have clients that aren't that's not their main priority. They
That's
want
right.
to see a water system develop. They want to. So in light of all this DEI conversation and all of that,
Yeah, for sure.
how do you really navigate that in a way that is true to the culture of your company, the competence of who you are, and your experience, but at the same time, we're in a production-driven business.
That's right. That's right. The first order of business is don't conflate the two.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your commitment to representation, or my commitment to representation, and providing a fair opportunity to be of value is one thing. A person's ability to answer the call is something completely different, right? The mandate to answer the call is there. You know what I mean? And we don't relax that expectation simply because, you know, you are who you are, you look how you look. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, the charge for engineers, in particular civil engineers, is great, and there is no margin for compromise when it comes to the systems that we design and the way in which we need to design them, and the factors of safety and you know what we're expected to deliver to our communities. No, I don't ever conflate those two things.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit to the statistics and that clearly define there's an underrepresentation of black engineers. What do you think our community, when I say our community, the black community, is missing as a result of that, not having that representation in that field?
Yeah, so I feel like three things need to converge in order for this type of career to become a reality. You got to have exposure. You have to have readiness, and then you have to have the opportunity. By exposure, we touched on that early on, right? You have to know that this is a career path that's available. You know, you have to be able to see and identify and recognize yourself in that profession. When it comes to readiness, obviously you have to demonstrate, the ability to absorb the theory, to reproduce the theory
Sure.
accurately, with the goal of ultimately applying that theory through first, second principle, applications, so that you can do what engineers do, right? And that's design things that are of use, and then ultimately it's the opportunity to have that new job or have the opportunity to design and work on that new project. All three of those things have to converge.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at the lack of or the disparity of African Americans in this space, I think it's because those things aren't designed to converge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Systems and structures.
Yeah. I
Block
think
the convergence.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to slow down here, and I want to draw a distinct difference between where these things do converge and where I have full confidence that they will converge to the benefit of Black students. And that's at the family level, right? And so Kirsten is not going to worry about being exposed to myriad career paths.
Sure.
Right? Now, the readiness is going to be on her, right? The opportunities are going to come to her by virtue of you and her mother and y'all's family availing those opportunities to her. Right. So at the family level, and the same applies to Harrison and Sadie and Ryan and all the other kids in our tribe. So that much, I think we'll figure that out, right? But where it gets scarce is when you get outside of that family dynamic, and the community at large needs to expose our kids to alternative, opportunities or professional opportunities. I think that's where we had some growth. And then I think there's one other thing working against us here. If you go backwards a generation, the main objective was to gain exposure, right? Here's, go to the career fair and learn, what pediatricians do, or learn what engineers do, whatever, right? It was kind of a one-way thing. You're trying to expose these students to new concepts, and then from there they gain interest and then they move on. Today, however, not only do you have to do that, but you actually have to combat other ulterior forms of exposure, negative exposure, and it's coming in at scale now through social media and all of these things. So now it's not enough for you not to, or it's not enough for you to simply expose them to the right things. You got to fight and be offensive about limiting their exposure to the wrong things. And so the mandate is
I think
is
it's
far
so good,
greater now.
man. You think about it like, as you said back then, you think about it like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Back then, if they weren't exposed, then their canvas would just still be blank.
Yeah.
Today, painting is happening no matter what.
Painting is happening no matter what.
What are you going to put on that canvas?
Something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's important. And so I guess that really honing in on those access and opportunity points, which is why my personal belief of why you don't see more Black engineers because sometimes I don't think we do enough of a job of simplifying just what the impact is on daily life.
Yeah, man.
I had the opportunity at a young age to work at the Department of Transportation Development. While I was a lawyer, I got to see firsthand and understand just what it meant for that road, that bridge.
Yeah.
If that bridge went out, what it meant that some school kid was going to get on a bus and have to take a 30-mile detour in rural Louisiana, and what that meant for their day, and all of those little things. Yesterday, my wife and I were somewhere, and they had a road torn up, and they had a culvert under there. She's like, "What's going on?" I say, "Well, that culvert, that right there was from an access point, right?"
Yeah.
And so I don't think every day we say, you go be an engineer and get a good job, but when you're an engineer, you're going to design the next bridge that your kid and your family may travel over. When you're in that room and you have to decide how funds are going to be given out in communities. You can make sure that there's equitable representation and all those things that I don't think that we do enough of helping understand that we don't want you to just go get this job, but what this job may mean outside of what comes home on the 1st and the 15th, right? But really the impact of daily life.
Yeah.
And, that's what you do with Bonton Associates. Talk about that with, I think it's amazing what y'all do with water, right?
Yeah, man.
It's amazing what you all do from a transportation perspective.
Yeah. We've said this, recently, I say recently, within the past year at the firm, engineers in general, to echo what you just said, but I'm going to take it a step further. Engineers in general have done a very poor job of communicating, one, the value of our profession, and then two, the realities of the value of infrastructure. You know what I mean? Who better to communicate the importance of infrastructure and investing in infrastructure than engineers and the practitioners that are responsible for designing those things? But oftentimes we retreat, to the technical jargon and we miss the opportunity to really color the importance of what it is that we do. But to your point, good infrastructure is good economic development. You look at a municipality and, the goal of the municipality is to, raise tax revenues, I shouldn't say raise, or I'm going to use my verbs correctly, right? Generate tax revenues and allocate those revenues in a way that reinforces and creates economic development and opportunity for the community. And so you're trying to attract businesses, you're trying to attract new residents to come to your community. The infrastructure that you've invested in as a city is the foundation upon which those decisions are going to be made. And so the quality of your streets and the ability to move goods and services and people throughout the community, it matters, right? It directly impacts the quality of life. Obviously, when we're talking about water and wastewater, from a regulatory perspective, your ability as a community to meet those mandates matters. Managing stormwater runoff and managing flood conditions, right? That and putting people in a position to be able to manage the risk of their insured property and things like that. That's all underscored by the work that engineers do, and I think we need to, as a community, as a professional community, communicate not just to the end user per se, the directors of the DPWs and those folks, but or just the elected officials who have decision power, but we need to be communicating with the end users in terms of the community that's going to use the infrastructure. They need to understand the importance of these things as well, and so we've made a commitment at Bonton Associates to widen our aperture in terms of who we're talking to, and that's why I'm doing podcasts now and getting out of the technical comfort zone and trying to promote the value in what it is that we're doing.
So you work with a whole lot of public clients, right?
That's right.
Mayors, council people, parish presidents.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're proud of your work product, but how often have you had to grapple with the bad decisions of elected officials? Because I don't think people understand that spectrum of, you may come in and develop a water system or to fix a wastewater system, but sometimes the need for you is because somebody has neglected this for 50 years.
Yeah.
And Jim and Bonnie have been paying taxes to have a working system, and now here comes Darius and Bonton Associates to come in. So how often do you have to grapple with where you go, I'm gonna take this charge, I'm gonna do this work, but these politicians,
hey man, that's the rub, man. It's addressing that misalignment time horizons that we're concerned with, right? When we look at our elected officials, a lot of times, they're going to be limited in the scope of time that they have to impact their community, right? And so they may be thinking on 4-year cycles or 2-year cycles. Infrastructure doesn't live on 2-year cycles, 4-year cycles. These are generational investments that are made or not made. And so that misalignment really is the impetus of a lot of the disinvestment that we see in the public workspace. Is, we're entrusting investment decisions to be made by someone who can't afford to look beyond the next 2 years, because I've got these fires in front of me right now, and I've got a limited amount of funds that are coming in. I can't necessarily raise taxes or raise fees, so I have to make difficult decisions. And unfortunately, the time horizon often works against infrastructure. And so it's my least favorite part of reality, frankly, when it comes to public works. And it's one that we're committed to offsetting that information asymmetry about, we would like to communicate more outward about the importance of investing and hopefully help our communities understand the consequences of disinvestment and what it means from an economic development perspective and all those things.
So you certainly get the discipline, get the theory behind it, but there's a whole lot of engineering firms.
Yeah, man.
Being who you are, what your firm represents, I get the black and white of, hey, we got a broken water system, we need an engineering firm. But once you're in there, what's that gray area that sets you apart of, oftentimes I'm working for a community, I'm working for services to be provided to people that look like me every day.
Yeah.
What's in that gray area outside of you picking up, sharpening your pencil and designing that sets you apart for being in the race?
I think relatability. Let's be honest, man. I mean, a lot of the communities that are in the greatest need for infrastructure investment oftentimes look like you and I, and to walk in a room and to be able to break down, what to some may be complex concepts and cause and effects as to, okay, if we do this first, then this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen. If we, upgrade our pump stations, then we got to do something with our, force mains downstream or our treatment facilities or what have you. But being able to, and this is Darius's opinion, but being able to talk to somebody that you can identify with in a way where they're able to break these things down goes so much further than just understanding the next step.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that makes me most proud is to be able to go in and sit down with these communities and offer some clarity, about what needs to happen next.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're rounding third. We headed home. But I want us to talk a little bit about legacy. You said something about when you started your firm, you knew it would be something that'll live longer than you.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about Ryan. You talked about Sadie, Harrison. But even the folks that work for you, right? What that's going to mean for their family.
Yeah.
Young brothers that work for you, they have young kids and opportunity to access. So talk about legacy and what that means for you, and how much is that an ingredient in your day to day?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so much bigger, than me at this point. Our firm is, we have 32 people who've chosen to run with us. You know what I'm saying? And they've put, the prosperity of their families and the people that depend on them, they've put that on us. You know what I mean? And so I don't take that lightly. And so the decisions that, I'm in charge of stewarding, and the investments that I'm in charge of, distributing, I have to always keep that in mind. You know what I mean? I have to create a firm that obviously is solvent from a financial perspective, but it has to be so to a degree that makes it financially fulfilling for our professionals that work for us. Because I recognize that they can go work anywhere that they want to. You know what I'm saying? And they're setting up for their retirement, just like I'm setting up for my retirement. And we want to give them opportunities to make their families proud and their communities proud. And so, but as it relates to legacy, the first thing I want to do, is make my children proud.
Yeah.
Right. So when they look at either the work that I've done, right, I point at that roadway that we designed, right, or that Ardenwood Lobdell connector over in Mall City, right, on Bird Station, right, for the people that are from Baton Rouge, or the May Street design that's under construction right now. Like, a lot of people don't know we designed that. You know what I mean?
Huge,
yeah,
impactful. LSU Lakes generations.
Yeah. So I know it's a headache right now, but or the billions of dollars of investments in water and wastewater infrastructure that we've helped to deliver for our Shreveport community and for Baton Rouge, and for work that we've done all over the state, East Carroll Parish and in Tallulah, and all of these places. I mean, I think about a program that Misa and the Jack and Jill team facilitated this past weekend, where the kids came to the office and they learned about visually impaired and what that feels like, right? And then they went off to go and traverse some of the areas downtown that we just happened to design ADA compliance for, right? And so I want our kids to be able to look back at the work that we've done, or read about the work that we've done, and be proud of it, number one, right? Not be embarrassed by it.
That's right.
And I would love for it to outlive me and to be bigger than me. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about your dad, your uncles. Talked about the defined path by example.
Yep.
We referred to our kids, and I appreciate and I understand that our kids get to be around the same tribe, right? But for the kid that doesn't, and you talked about outside of the family, that greater community responsibility. What do you feel that responsibility is out of everything that you have going on? When Darius, it's all quiet and Darius has to think about that, what is your personal responsibility? Because many people say, well, I can't start a mentoring program. I don't have time. But
yeah, man.
But there's something that we all can, there's something we can all put into to the pot. What is that personal responsibility around access, opportunity that you really feel is incumbent upon you based upon your story, your own experience, and what you had and what others may not have?
Yeah. First off, I'll say we always can do more. All right. The next thing is offer the gift that we've been given. My scope of experience and interest is extremely narrow. You know what I mean? But it's deep. And so when it comes to understanding the profession of engineering, I need to always be willing to offer that, and always be willing to expose anybody that's willing to listen and learn about it, be willing to expose them to that. And so for the past, I guess, probably 3 years, we've had, high school seniors come and work for the firm during the summers, and my hope is that, for them just to be in proximity to the work that we're doing, that turns on a light switch for them, and that they're able to see that, hey, wait a minute, like this is a viable path for me. When I receive opportunities to go and speak, to high school and even to college classes, I certainly lean into those opportunities. But again, we can always do more if we're being frank and we're being honest with ourselves. We can always do more. And so the best thing I can say is just be open to those opportunities and be looking for them and lean into them when they present themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Darius, it's been a great conversation.
Man, I appreciate you.
If you had to define access as the word access, how would you define it?
Oh, man. A fair shake, fair opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. Let me back up. Access to me is an equitable opportunity to be able to offer the services that we purport to offer, right? Whether we're selected or not, that's a decision that, those stakeholders that have the privilege of making in this particular moment. Access is, for us, is having the information available to us to be able to discern what the needs are of our potential clients. Having visibility into, some of the financial challenges that our potential clients may be having. But my view on what's required of me is always going to be conservative from the perspective of I expect to bring to the table what anybody else is expected to bring to the table.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But just give me that shot, and then I'll do the rest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think that's great closing words.
Yeah,
It's all
man.
about is we know the talent is in our young black men, in our next generation.
without question.
But they just need the shot.
Give me the shot, man.
Give me the shot.
And they'll take care of the rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Darius, I appreciate you joining Thunder Thoughts. It's been a great conversation.
Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
You know how I feel about you, man. Appreciate you.
Today's conversation is important. As you heard from Darius, access is key, but the ability to seize the opportunity, the ability to be ready, but also knowing the opportunities before you. Engineering is a clear pathway to success, but engineering offers even more as it impacts our community, allows us to give back, and ensures that our communities continue to move forward. Thunder Thoughts. It's our purpose, it's our mission to create access that doesn't just better oneself, but betters the community around them. This is Thunder Thoughts. I'm Joshua Hollins. Until next time, keep pushing access.